To understand Croatian verbs, it helps to understand what we really mean when we say something in English. Because in English, we tend to use verbs with general meanings, but Croatian is more specific. Like, for example, if I was to say, I am making something. I am making a cake. I am making a table. I am making a coffee. I am making a dress. And what am I actually doing? In Croatian, I would be baking a cake, building a table, cooking a coffee. This is because it involves boiling a jug and brewing, or dissolving the coffee, sewing a dress. So, when you are wanting to use a verb, think about the actual action that is taking place. And another area where this differs in English is with verbs like have to, should, must, and need. There is quite a bit to comprehend with verbs, so we'll tackle the present tense first. Verbs have different forms or conjugations depending on who is doing the action. This is in some ways similar to English. If we look at the verb to swim, if he was doing the action, we would add an S and say he swims. But in the plural, like they, we would take the S away and say they swim. We could also say he is swimming or he's swimming, where we add an extra M before adding the ending ing, and this is the same for they are swimming. In Croatian, the ending also indicates who is doing the action, and we can see there are two different ways we can write this. If we wanted to say he swims or he's swimming, we could say on pliva. And if it was obvious who the subject was, we could just say pliva. And for they, it works the same, but instead we add ju to the ending, and we get oni plivaju, or we could just say plivaju. In Croatian, there are 16 verb types, and they fall into the following three categories: a conjugation, I conjugation, and E conjugation. To try and make this a little less confusing, we'll divide these over a couple of videos and separate them out in their parts. Type 1 verbs are a conjugation. This means that when you take away the ending and are forming a conjugation to establish who is doing the action, the verb will end in an A. Type 1 verbs end in ti. Removing the ti, the verb now ends in an A. This is the form that he, she, or it takes. For the verb to have, or imati, he has can be either on ima, or without the subject, ima. The pronoun I or ya receives an M on the end, and you informal ends with sh. He, she, it receives no additional ending. We ends in mo. You, plural or formal, ends in te, and they ends in ju. Without the subject, these become I have or imam, you have imash, he, she, or it has is ima, we have is imamo, you have is imate, and they have is imayu. Type 1 and Type 2 contain the largest number of verbs. Let's have a look at some of the more common verbs. And in this table from our Croatian Grammar and Dictionary, have a look in the description below to get a copy of this. You can see that the endings for each column are the same and only the stem of the word has changed. And looking at the column of he, she, it, we can see this verb form repeated in each word across the line. To make I read, we add an M as in the first column and we get čitam. And to make we read, looking at this column, we add mo and we get čitamo. For the pronoun I, examples we have are imam, chitam, kuham, hodam, gledam, etc. For informal you, we have imash, chitash, kuhash, hodash, gledash. He, she, it is ima, chita, kuha, hoda, gleda. We is imamo, chitamo, kuhamo, hodamo, gledamo. You, formal and plural, is imate, chitate, kuhate, hodate, gledate. And they is imayu, chitayu, kuhayu, hodayu, and gledayu. And to put these into sentences, the accusative case often follows the subject-verb-object order. When there is an object, the object noun and its adjective following the verb will be in the accusative case. Here are some examples, and remember we are concentrating on the ending changes of the verb for who is doing the action. So, to have, which is imati. With the subject, he has a dog, on ima psa. I have a dog, ya imam psa. And without the subject, you have a dog, imash psa, and they have a dog, imayu psa. In the next few videos, we will continue to expand on these and go through with you more of the variations and changes of other verbs. For example, to drive, voziti, to see, vidieti, to write, pisati, and to buy, kupovati, etc. The exercises on Patreon for the verbs in the present tense are also building on the possessive pronouns, and now you'll practice these in the accusative case. Well, that's all for now. Vidimo se.